got with us here Jason Phillips, one of my favorite people. Jason, I've been following you around on social media, was privately stalking you for a hot minute. I love your content. I love what you've got to say. I think you're an amazing leader. You're the guy behind Contractor Freedom, and a lot of people here know what that is. But I really just kind of want to dive in, and I have a couple questions here, but I really just kind of like to just dive in free form and just kind of just explore. How did you get started in the construction home service business?
So that's a great question, and I love to share my story because I what I've come to learn over the last few years is that what I thought was unique is very common among small business people, and and especially when it comes to like home service and even contractors. And I've had the privilege of building my business to a place that many only dream of, and I've learned a lot of things the hard way over my career. And I'm here to help others. That's what my mission is.
Love it.
And my mission is literally to elevate the lives of small business owners so that they can live with greater freedom and purpose. And I actually got started uh, way back in the day. I hate to tell you how long ago it was, but I had some friends that were running of all things, a painting company.
Yeah.
And I went to church with them, and they're like, "Hey, Jason, we're now doing multifamily painting. We're traveling to, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, Atlanta, Chicago. We're painting these, and remodeling and rehabbing these apartments, but our residential painting business is not getting the attention it needs. Will you come on and start selling and running that company for us?" And it was an incredible opportunity. I mean, I knew nothing. I was passionate about marketing and sales, and I knew nothing. And they threw me to the sharks, and I had to either sink or swim. And so that's how I actually got into the business.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. What do you think are some important lessons that, like, I love what you said a minute ago. You're trying to empower people and teach from your journey. And uh, to me, immediately when you said that, I think of the old cliche phrase: "Smart man learns from his mistakes, and a wise man learns from the mistakes of others." Right. So I try to do that too. I try to not repeat mistakes by learning from really smart people like you. What are some big lessons in that journey that other people can take away so they don't
So
repeat those mistakes?
that is a great question. I've always viewed myself as a pretty good student, a very smart, astute person. I'm quick. I'm attentive, and and I feel like I can do anything.
Hmm.
And I think there's a lot of business owners that share that sentiment. And that's one of the things, that boldness is one of the things that helps us get started in business. And and in doing so, I'm like, I don't need anybody's help. I can figure this out. I can do it better than that. I can beat them. I can win. And and so what helps us get launched in business, or what helped me get launched in business, and what I see helps get a lot of others launched in business, soon becomes a limiting factor
Yeah.
because we're closed minded. And now, again, when I started my business, the internet was in its infancy. Most
Hmm.
companies didn't even have a website.
Hmm.
And so I know I'm dating myself, but but there was no Facebook. There were no social media networks. So I didn't really connect with anybody. I kept my nose to the grindstone,
Hmm.
and I did the best I knew how. I paid the price of stupidity, of ignorance, of uh, uh, of mistakes, and thank God I was able to overcome that.
Hmm.
But what I thought I was smart, but in retrospect, I was working dumb.
Yeah.
Because why should I go be like, why should I go and chisel out a brand new wheel out of bedrock when there's already like a wheel store that says here's wheels for your truck and your car? And so I'm like, why do I need to
Yeah.
go reinvent the wheel? That's dumb. That's impeding my own progress.
Hmm.
So why don't I go find the pieces of my business? The magic is not inventing in every piece of your business. The magic is getting the great ingredients and putting them together in your recipe. That's the magic.
It's an analogy I use a lot actually too. When I'm trying to, like, when I'm in an advisory capacity with, like, when I'm clients or something, I was like, imagine if you're in a kitchen, you're in one of those kitchen shows, and you got Gordon Ramsay over here, and you're right here. You both have the exact same ingredients, you have the same utensils and everything. it's not the ingredients that matter, it's the recipe that matters. And you know, to a degree, I'm not saying bad ingredients, but if we all have the same playing field, we all have the same tools, we have the same CRMs, we have the same marketing systems available, we can all do the same thing. So it becomes the recipe that really is a limiting factor, I think.
100%. You know, can I share a personal story?
I'd love it.
You know, Mike, and I see this in so many other small business owners. After I started my business, again, I had a lot of energy. I was an Energizer bunny. I could work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden my business is launched. I'm flying. I paid off my debt. The wife got a new SUV. The kids had new shoes, and there was dinner on the table every night.
Mm-hmm.
So they're, you know, financially things were working. But I got to this point where, wow, I mean, I have to keep running. I have to keep doing this. And I began to feel like the mouse on the wheel running inside the cage. And eventually I'm like, wow, the wheel is still turning, but the mouse is dead running around. And so I ended up building my own prison. And I call it either,
that's common.
when I'm talking to contractors, I call it contractor prison.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to other small business owners, I call it small business prison.
Mm-hmm.
That all of my dreams of what I wanted to create, I created it, but then all of a sudden it became a prison because there was no time off for Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Jason had that payroll to pay every week, those bills to pay, and it all depended on me. I had become this super producer because all of the systems that I made relied on me.
Yeah.
It was a house of cards.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up in what I refer to as small business prison or contractor prison. And the tough thing was, you know, I would so often I would work late. Okay. And there was this one night in particular that was a momentous, pivotal time in my life. I'm working one late, and I can see, if I close my eyes, I can still see it. I'm sitting there with my keyboard in front of me, my computer with my huge 17-inch screen back in the day.
You are dating yourself now.
CRT for sure.
Yes, sir.
And I'm working on, it's after midnight. My office was in my dining room at my house. I had 2 children at this point, and my wife was pregnant with our third, which was a son. I had 2 daughters, and one was like 5, and the other was 2, and my wife was pregnant with our son. And it's after midnight, and I go to get my dinner. The wife and kids are in bed. The house is quiet. I go in, and we've got a built-in microwave. I open the door, and I pull out my plate with my dinner on it. It's got a little paper towel over it.
Yeah.
Cold leftovers.
Yeah.
Okay. And so anyways, I heat them up, and I eat, and I go back, and I'm working at my computer again. And I've got a radio playing on my desk, on the corner of my desk. And I'm working. I think I'm doing payroll at this point. I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I was working on the computer. And this song comes on the radio. And then, you know, it goes ding, 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 ding. And it says, my boy arrived just the other day.
Oh, I know that
came
song.
to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know that song, that's the Cats in the Cradle.
Yep.
And it tells the story about a man who keeps telling his son he doesn't have time for him because he has planes to catch, bills to pay, and things to do. He has work. Okay. And as this song is on, it's reading my mail. It's me.
Mm-hmm.
And just like I had a little while ago gotten my cold leftovers out of the microwave, my business was getting the best of me, and my family was getting my cold leftovers.
Ooh, that's powerful.
And this was the eye-opening part of it. I was letting it happen.
Mm-hmm.
It was my fault.
Yeah.
And so I've got tears, Micah, streaming down my face. And I'm filled with sadness and regret for just a moment. And then all of a sudden it turns to righteous indignation. And I slammed my hand on the desk and I just threw my hands up and I said, God, I need your help. Something has to change. And I kid you not, God answered my prayer. At that moment, I saw 3 options in front of me. And the first option was, well, I could quit. If I quit, who loses? They do.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, my children, they lose. Wasn't going to happen. The second option was, well, I could pull back and not work so much and I could make less,
Mm-hmm.
but give them more time. Okay, that was an option. But I'm like, personally, I'm an achiever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, I would lose my manhood. And it just didn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do that. There's got to be a better option. Option A and B. No, I'm not going to take the fool's choice. I want option C. What's option C? Option C was, well, you can build a team. Everybody can shoulder the load and everybody can have a better future.
Yeah.
And I chose the third option.
I love that.
And that's when my life changed. That is when my life changed. And I see so many small business owners that are pouring their life in to their business because you don't really know how to pray until you've got payroll to make. I talked to a pastor once. He told me, he's like, when I was a pastor, he said, I thought I knew how to pray. Bless Susie and bless Jerry over here. He said, but when I started a business and I had payroll to make, he said, I learned to pray on a whole new level. And I can relate to that, Micah. And so there's this burden you feel, not just for your family. You care about the people that are depending on you running a good company. And so I felt this burden and I'm like, something's got to be better. So that was a moment that changed my life. And I decided to build a team. That means I needed to grow as a leader. I needed to learn new things. Well, guess what? I wasn't equipped with leadership skills. Gosh, I didn't even have business skills at that time. And I was playing a game that I wasn't even equipped to play. I knew how to sell and market and I knew basics about painting. I didn't actually do any painting. I had the crew that did the painting. I can tell you when he wasn't doing it right. But had I ever cleaned out have I ever cleaned out a GM 5000, or any of those Graco machines? Or no, I haven't. The only time I've even held a spray gun in my hand is when I was on a few years ago. I was on this TV show. And they're like, hey, Jason, get on the ladder and we want to see you spray. I'm like, I don't paint. I've never painted. I don't have those skills. Like, we need it for the TV show. Okay. I'm like, Rodrigo, give me that spray gun. I climbed up the ladder and like spraying with it.
Great.
Right. But so I'm not the craftsman guy.
Yeah.
But I was playing a game I wasn't really equipped to play. I knew how to get our widget delivered, our service delivered. And I see so many people, regardless of whether in, home services or home improvements or remodeling, whatever, you get to this point where you can do the basics, but now you need to think about real marketing. It's not just about referrals anymore. How about having a real sales system?
Have you heard of a concept called the Peter Principle?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that Peter Principle, although that's a management principle in corporate, it applies to contracting. And that is really the premise of
it started in corporate,
freedom.
But it really applies to anybody. And I mean, and I'm probably going to butcher it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's basically the principle of like people will continue to rise up a promotion ladder essentially until they fall short of the skills required for that. And like commonly you have like let's say you take someone that's a great painter and then all of a sudden they become a crew lead. And then maybe they're okay at that. Maybe they're not. Then maybe they become like, in charge of like 20 crews. Now all of a sudden, maybe their skills starts breaking down because their management skills across a bunch of people maybe aren't as strong. And so the skills of one position are not necessarily the same skills in another. And that's effectively what that principle talks about. That sounds like what you're talking about because you had to learn new skills now all of a sudden.
That's exactly why business owners end up in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Peter Principle. I've actually written an article on that.
I love it. I want to read it.
And so you end up there again. You're playing a game you're not equipped to play. And in corporate it's the idea that managers get promoted to they're finally at the point where they're in a position that's above their skill level.
Correct. Yeah.
And then when
And then
they're in
they
that skill
fail
level,
because of that, right?
not only do they fail, but now they won't hire people under them that might threaten their safety and their stability. Oh, this person's better than me, so I am not going to bring them or promote them.
Get them
So then
close to
you end
my
up with an
ranks or
entire
even,
team of people. It's cascaded because
right.
it's fear of being supplanted in your own position.
Yeah.
But it applies to this. And the simple answer is become a student, open your mind, connect with people, learn something new, and you can go there. But it starts with recognizing that, we talked about the Dunning-Kruger effect earlier. Hey, I don't know everything. One of the things that you'll notice about people that you and I would consider experts in a field, what they realize and recognize is that how much they don't know.
I think that's incredibly, for me, it was humbling. And we talked about this before we started the podcast. I was telling you, like in my early 20s, I was just unbelievably arrogant. Unbelievably. Like the person you're talking to today is just not the same person. I thought I knew everything. I thought I could beat everyone. I thought I was better than everyone. Just absolute through and through arrogance. And I had a few very, very humbling things in my 20s that we don't have time to go through today. We'll save that for another day. But a couple like basically gut checks. It was like, oh no, I'm not that smart. Oh no, I'm not that good. And they were really kind of like, oh man, I really need to change here. And that kind of realized that out. And then I heard about that Dunning-Kruger effect. I was like, dude, I was that guy. I really was that guy. And I committed to myself at that point. I just want to be a student. Like from here on, I always want to learn. I never want to enter a situation, even with somewhere where I might be considered to be the expert over somebody else. I still have something to learn from them, and they have something to learn from me. And I think if you enter a situation like that, where you're always willing to learn from everybody you're around, I think that is the way to go.
Yes, man. Mike, I couldn't agree more. That's one of the things that when we we start off in our business, and we either enter business because we want more time or more fun, more money or more freedom. Those are all great things, right? Or we want to make a difference in the world. How do you think orphanages around the world and water wells in Africa get drilled? People make money and give to those things.
Yeah.
So business owners need to be money minded, and the business owners I know are super, super generous people, but we end up building these prisons. And then I meet business owners all the time. They're like, Jason, I talked to one just recently. He's like, Jason, this is the business I prayed for, but man, I can't continue this.
Yeah.
And so what I present, I'm like, hey, I've got an SOS for you. I'll throw you a life ring, and it's super simple. It's self, others, and systems.
Oh, I like that.
It starts with, look, as the owner of your company, your job is to prepare yourself and your business for growth. And I'm a huge fan of and follower of John Maxwell, have been for a long, long time.
Yep.
And I believe in the law of the lid.
Yep.
I'm the lid on my business. You are the lid on your business.
Correct.
I believe that weak leaders equal weak organizations. Strong leaders equal strong organizations. I believe that everything rises and falls on leaderships. And I believe that my team and your team will never be better than us.
Correct.
Now having said that,
they should have individual skills better than us, but
yes, they should have individual
we will
skills.
be the weak link of the team as a whole.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So now weak, insecure leaders fear, like, I don't want to hire someone that can paint better than me or install better than me or sell better than me. Okay. But that's a weakness. What we begin to realize is, hey, I can't accomplish this vision for a better future for us all unless I have some specialists on my team. I need someone like for a football team. Man, I need a quarterback. I need a tight end. I need a running back. I need a fullback. I need a wide receiver.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. And so guess what? I'll be the coach. I don't need to be the superstar. I'm going to put all this together, and we're all going to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And everyone's getting a ring if we
That's
win.
right. No, you might have been sitting on the bench, or you might have been in the press box, but you're getting a ring because you were part of the team.
Yep.
So I believe that we need to start with ourselves, and we need to grow as leaders, and we need to, commit to personal growth. And of course, people that are watching podcasts and attending seminars, hiring coaches, they're already
Already.
on the right path.
Yeah.
But I determined, a long time ago, I said, look, I'm going to forever be a student of leadership, people skills, and business. And I'm going to forever be a student. And I'm never going to say I've learned it all. How stupid would that be?
Yeah.
But sometimes when we don't know a lot, we again, Dunning-Kruger effect,
you start thinking you know more than you know.
That's right. That's right. And so, once you get on that leadership growth path, and you're like, man, I need a team of people that can help me build what I want to build. And hopefully you've got a vision that is for your company that is bigger than you. If you can, again, I can't tell you that your vision is right or wrong.
I think it's personal.
It is personal.
Very personal.
My first vision for my company when I started building my team was, hey guys, come help me. Man, we're going to sell a lot of jobs and we're going to make a lot of money. Well, we started growing, but you know what I ended up with? I ended up with a team of selfish people.
Yeah.
That were only in it for the money.
Yeah. I think vision's important. I learned, we were talking about this too, that book Traction. I learned and reinvented how I approach vision because of that book. And I do like the 10-year, 3-year, 1 year down,
the VTO.
Yep. The VTO thing, right? Vision Traction Organizer, which basically says you want to like create a vision of what your life should look like. Your life and business should look like 10 years down the road. Then you can back up and say, what do I need to do in 3 years to be in line to hit the 10-year vision? Then what do I need to do in 1 year to hit the 3-year? And now what do I need to do in this quarter, these 13 weeks? What do I got to do there to be in line with the 1, to be in line with the 3, to be in line with the 10? And that's what we use. And I love it. I'm still constantly refining it. A couple times a year, I'm constantly tweaking little things about it, but I love that approach. I think it's great. It gives you something long-term to shoot for.
In the quarterly, once you boil it down into the quarterly, the 13 weeks, that's great, but that's still at a management level.
Correct.
Boiling, even like 13 weeks, but the players, the people that are doing your marketing, your sales, your installations,
you got to think daily and weekly.
They work play by play.
They do. Mm-hmm.
And giving them another book I love reading, by the way. If you've ever read for you guys that have ever read the 4 Disciplines of Execution by Sean Covey, who's the son of Stephen Covey, the guy who wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Anyways, he talks about the manager's scoreboard versus the player's scoreboard.
Yeah, and they're different. They are different.
And if you ever visit my office, I have a big screen TV in every office that has KPIs. And one of them in our call center, we have a football team. Our call center is called the kickoff, because they receive the ball,
I love it,
and they try to advance it as far up the field before the sales team comes in and takes over. And so they have all their KPIs. And one of them is how many appointments have we set today? They have a metric for every single day of the entire year. Here's what I have for the day. That way, when it's later on in the day or even halfway in the day, they can measure their progress. Wow, we need to do something different. Maybe the inbound call flow isn't as much, or maybe our outbound set rate is not as much as we want. So they can celebrate, man, we're still in the red, and these dials will eventually turn green, and there's a celebration. Yes, we're green for the day. We're green for the week.
Do you guys have a bell in there too?
So we do not have an actual bell.
Oh, you should.
Okay, we do not have a bell. We're working on something a little more. The bell would be super cool. We had a gong back in the day, but we've got these sirens we're putting in the system that are going to hook up to our CRM when certain things happen.
Oh, they're
silent. Okay. But they're going to flash and spin.
I love it.
So
you can't be loud because you could be on phones. Yeah, for sure. I love it. That's great. The only thing I would say, like, not for the context of you, but for the context of listeners, like, you're measuring that volume because you have a scaled enough company to get there. If you're at like $100,000 to $200,000, you can't be measuring calls per day yet. You don't have that much volume to do that, but you should strive to get to that point,
But regardless of this, I mean, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. So that's one thing for the listeners. What is a key metric that matters to you at your current business size?
Yes, and that's all I meant is, like, their key metric might be different because of their volume than yours might. Or at least the threshold. At least the threshold.
And you guys, there's all kinds of metrics that there's things that I measure that maybe aren't relevant to others yet. but you can measure, how many appointments do I need for the week?
That's a big one.
How many outbound calls, how many outreaches have I made to previous clients this week?
That's a great one
Have I
too.
called 5 previous clients every single day? Or how many emails or text messages, whatever. But there are specific actions at every level of your company that you can take to just, we say MTN, move the needle. All you got to do is, or really move the ball now, move the ball just a few inches at a time, and you'll continue to get first downs. You'll eventually end up in the end zone.
You remind me of James Clear with Atomic Habits right now. Just
One of my
1% better,
favorite books.
just a little bit
Yes.
every day. It's not big moves. We don't win. People don't get to the Olympics in a month. That, you know what I mean? They start early,
Yep.
they develop skills a tiny bit at a time, and all of a sudden they wake up and they're Michael Phelps. You know what I mean? It's small incremental gains that I think are where we get and it's the perseverance to keep going every day, even on hard days, to keep growing that 1%. I think that's what ultimately makes us better.
Atomic Habits is one of the books I'm actually rereading
Are you
right
rereading?
now.
I have read it
Yeah.
probably 10
Yeah.
times. I love the book.
Yeah. I haven't read it that many, but it's, and because reading a book is great, but when you come back and reread it, you're at a different place when you reread it.
Yeah.
Or maybe you didn't fully implement what you wanted to implement at the time, but you got the big chunks and you can reread it and refine it. Or I'm like, hey, this didn't really speak to me last time, but this speaks to me this time.
Well, because you'll be in a
And
different
so,
space and you can pull from it in different places, I
yes.
mean, how many you watched a Disney movie when you were a kid and then watched it again as an adult, and there's some jokes in there you just didn't get because you weren't at the right place? It's the same thing. You're at a
It's the same
different
thing.
level in your life, and you're going to pull different things out of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Okay. So
so
your
right.
SOS, we talked about part of that. I really want to hear the full story of your SOS though.
Okay, so the first one is self. Grow as a leader, become hungry, and know that everything rises and falls based on your leadership. So the O in SOS is others. It's about, it's about building your team. So let's ask a question. You could be a solopreneur and you're the only guy in your company right now. Maybe you like it that way. Maybe you don't. I met a guy a while back and he's like, Jason, I really don't want to grow my business like you guys. I love painting. I'm going to die with a paintbrush in my hand. Okay, then great. I'm not there. I can't argue with that.
That's his
But
vision.
that's his vision. What do you want for your company? And so, what I want is, and what I find a lot of other business owners want is they want some level of freedom in their life that they didn't have in the past or they don't have presently, and that can come with money. Money helps, but I know a lot of people that are making a lot of money, but they have no time.
Yeah.
So if you have time without money, you're bankrupt. Or so if you have money without time or time without money, when you can get time and money and begin to live with freedom and purpose, obviously there's health, relationships, spirituality. There's other things that go into this, but there's this sense of freedom. What does freedom mean for you? I can't define that for you.
Yeah.
But I can define that. I can define that for myself. But what I began to realize, and what so many others begin to realize, is, wow, I need help. I need employees. I need a team of people. And then, but you don't really start realizing the problems. You run into these problems after you already have hired a number of people. Now you've got conflicts at work. You hire people with big hopes. They don't work out. They're underperformers. There's arguments, or there's all of these people problems that happen, and you're not equipped to deal with them. So you don't know about leadership. You don't know about management and all these people skills. And again, you're like, oh man, I need help. What can I do?
Can I ask a question about this? Because I hear, and I have an opinion on this, but I hear a lot of times with my clients, obviously I'm mostly in the marketing space, right? And when I'm talking strategy with them, I ask them what their biggest problem is. It's always one of two things. Always, like 99.9% of the time. I need more customers, or I have more customers and I don't have employees that help me do the job. So let me talk about that. Because I think your first S and your O are actually really related. And so I think that what's happening here is people that are struggling to build the team out, I think maybe their self part needs a little work to become the person that the others want to work for. But
so 100%.
That's not a cut and dry thing, and it's not the only thing. But would you speak to that? Because if you're at the place where you're working on yourself and you're trying to build a team, you start having hires, you hire people, you don't think they're good. you churn through people too fast. You can't find the right workers. This is a huge problem. What can people do to make that better?
Well, the S is, grow and learn leadership and people skills.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to become the type of leader that great people want to follow.
I couldn't have said it better. I agree with
in,
that
in
100%.
In a similar way, when we get married and we walk down the aisle, we're hitching our life to someone else's life.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not so different when you start a new job.
I agree.
You may not be committed on the same level, but you're walking down the aisle with dreams of a better future.
Yeah.
And we need to attract the right people. I told you I attracted the wrong people because I had a bad vision early on.
Yeah.
But we've got to become the type of person that the kind of people we need really want to follow. And that comes down to ethics, integrity. I say this all the time, and I believe this with all of my heart. Trust is the currency of business.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, trust is the currency of marriage and of all relationships.
I would say further, trust is the currency of every relationship,
yes,
business or otherwise.
It is. And so I need to be building trust. I have at my office, I have a piggy bank and it says trust on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm, and if you envision a piggy bank that's about the size of a grapefruit, and every interaction we have with other people in our life, and for this context, we'll just say our employees,
mm-hmm.
we're making a deposit in that piggy bank. But if you drop that bank, it's going to shatter on the ground. And although building trust can you have some money in the bank with people, trust can be eroded so quickly. And you think in a relationship, you can be married for umpteen years, but if you go cheat on your partner, trust is gone immediately. And the same thing.
That cliche, trust is gained in drops and lost in buckets.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to become a trustworthy person. Here's a proverbial, not a proverbial, a real example that I use often with two examples. The first one is this. Let's just say that you're a painter and you're out there painting, you've got your guys with you, and it's Friday afternoon, you're trying to wrap up a job. It's been late, hot day, it's getting late, and you're running out of paint. You've got 1 gallon of paint left and you really need 1.5
mm-hmm.
to finish the job. The paint store's closing soon, and you decide to add some water into that paint so that you can water down that paint and you can finish that job and collect that check and move on. And look, it's very possible that maybe use that watered down paint on a protected exterior ceiling that's never going to see the weather, and maybe the client never even knows that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what your employees just saw?
They saw you taking a shortcut.
They saw you in really cheating.
You lied effectively.
And I'm going to share another one. This is going to be hard for people to swallow. Your employees seeing you taking cash and not depositing it in your bank account so you can keep it off the IRS books.
Yep.
What is that going to do?
A lot of people.
What do you? So now when your clients or your clients, your internal customers, which are your first and most clients, your employees, when they see you, taking a shortcut on the job or cheating the IRS, look, I believe that we should pay every dollar we owe, but only every dollar we owe. And we should take advantage of every legal means to minimize our taxes.
Agreed.
But when your employees see that, what are they thinking when it comes to you making their paycheck? Is he rounding my hours down, up? Is he going to cheat me or she going to cheat me? Now, in addition to when you're not around and they're running the job site, what are they going to do? They saw the example that you set. So those little things are really not so little. They have an exponential cascading effect.
And the type of person that will take the small cheat will end up doing the medium cheat, will end up doing the large cheat. So we talked about this before. I was in the Air Force, And um, all the branches of the military have a very integrity first mentality. And what the things that they're doing, and when you're in boot camp and in your whatever your tech school or MOS training or whatever your job is, whenever you're learning there, they're giving you constant integrity tests. They're trying to test if you're going to take a shortcut. And the reason is like, let's say you're doing some, ridiculous run around a track. Like we used to have to run like 5 miles in the morning, right? So, okay, but they're not actually counting every person. I could have lied and I could have shorted myself a lap. I could have done that. But the person that does that, is that the same character that you want controlling like a $2 billion aircraft? Or maybe clearing a room with a buddy that your life and his may be intertwined because of shortcuts that you may take? Is that the kind of character that you want in that? Not really, and that's an extreme example, but it does play out in business because like you said, if they see you cheat the IRS, what are they going to cheat on the job that may end up coming back around? And that's,
Micah, that's true. And so the O in SOS, we need to realize we're not in the widget business.
What do you mean by that?
We're the service business, the contracting business, the roofing, painting.
Okay, so we're not the widget of the thing that we do, right?
Right.
Is that what you mean?
We're in the people business.
Correct.
Okay. Who do we serve? Do we serve homes and buildings?
No, we serve the people that own them.
The people.
Mm-hmm.
Who answers our phones?
People.
Who does the sales? People. Okay, who delivers the promises? People.
Yep.
Who do we buy products from? People. Yep. It's all about people. And this is like a missing link in business, is understanding.
I feel like you're telling everyone here like a freaking cheat code for life. This is amazing.
Well, when I learned this, Micah, this made a huge difference in my life. And this was probably, I'm going to say 2015.
Okay.
Maybe 2015. It could have been a little sooner. Literally, one morning, I read my Bible every morning, and I spend time. I just think on what I've read. I pray. I journal every morning, and I'm just praying one morning about just the future. And I just felt impressed. God saying to me that a key to my future success is going to be people skills.
I love that.
And I went back and I shared that with my team, and I'm like, okay, people skills. I really don't even know what all that means right now, but people skills. And so I again started reading and studying, and every day I learned that that's more and more true than ever before.
And then you go back to what you said. Trust is the most important thing. That's the currency of those relationships.
So think about Maya Angelou. I'm not even sure how you pronounce her last name.
I don't either.
And everybody knows this quote: "People will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never
forget how they made you feel.
Forget the way they made you feel."
I know.
And so think about our employee interactions. Mm-hmm. Let's just say that one of your employees doesn't meet your expectations, and you've got to have a crucial conversation with him or her. If that interaction doesn't end with hope for that employee, if that correction doesn't end with hope, you're going to end up losing. Look, an employee that feels like I'm heard, I'm important, I'm cared for, is going to be way more engaged and way more productive. I'm not saying don't hold people accountable. Please don't get me wrong. I mean, I have high expectations. And people are okay with high expectations. They want to know that they're heard, they're appreciated, they're seen, they're not invisible. They don't want to be treated like numbers and robots. They don't want to be treated passive aggressively. They don't want to be yelled at. And so many leaders and business owners like, well, that's just kind of manager I am. If you don't like it, hit the road. Okay, well, guess what? You know what they're going to do?
They're going to hit the road.
They're going to hit the road, and you're going to be back to solo before you know it.
Yeah.
You're going to be delivering all those promises everywhere.
We're almost circling back around, because I think like what you're outlining here is the skills that the person I was talking to you about, like the person that's saying they're having trouble struggling, finding the team and keeping a team, like that is kind of the loop I think that we need to focus on.
Well, if so, let's say that you have a failed hire. Someone doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
What are the reasons that they didn't work out. Okay, let's just name a few. How about their grandmother died a few hours away and they've got to go take care of the estate? Okay, that happens. We've actually really had that happen before.
And that's uncontrollable. That's not you.
And I can't control that.
Can't control that.
Okay. But almost every other thing, either we hired the wrong person.
Hired too fast is a big one, I think. Way too fast with no processes.
Or we hired a person that might be a good fit for our team, but we put them in a role that was not good for them based on their personality, or the role was designed bad and no one's really going to fit in that role, or we didn't empower them, or we didn't bring leadership to them, we didn't recognize or reward them. It really, again, back to step one, leadership.
Mm-hmm.
It all rises and falls on leadership. And it's like, we get this new employee, you've got all these hopes. Oh man, I've got a good feeling about this one. Oh, I've got a good feeling. I feel good about this one. And then when you got to let them go, oh no, yeah, that person didn't work out. No, I hired the wrong person.
Well, and then what I see happen is after that, especially after someone has it happen a couple of times in a row, like there's no good workers. No one out there wants to work. No one wants to earn a reasonable wage. And what they don't realize is that they're the ones that cause the issues in the first place.
You become disillusioned.
Yes.
And I see this, like, Jason, I hired this project manager to manage my projects. And no, I'm sorry. I promoted my best guy to project manager.
Mm.
And all of a sudden he couldn't do this and his performance goes down and the relationship went down and I had to let him go. And so then I start talking to him like, well, tell me about this. Tell me about this guy or gal. And I'm like, wow, you just promoted someone to leadership that wasn't ready for leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You should have let them remain an expert technician where they were shining.
Yep. And that goes back to
we talked about that earlier, right?
Peter principle.
So we have to prepare people for that new role. You don't need to be a great sales. You don't have to be the best salesperson to manage a sales team. You
don't.
Probably need to be okay.
You don't even have to be a painter to run a paint company. Look at Bradley Ellison. I know you know who he is, right? First year out of the gate, never held a paintbrush, $1.7 million.
That's right.
And I hear, we were talking about this before, a lot of times, like when I'm trying to give like sales advice, because marketing and sales are super tied, right? And I believe that sales is pretty universal because it's just people. Like we're just talking about, trust is a currency of people. People is who you buy from. I don't care what kind of company. It's all the same thing. But we were talking about this earlier. I get a lot of people like, oh, you're not a painter. You don't know. Dude, you do not have to be a painter to know how to sell paint jobs. You don't have to be like Bradley Ellison is it. To run in a very successful paint company, never painted. And so if you think that way, it's just a limiting belief. And I think, yeah.
That's my story. Yeah. I'm not a painter.
Yeah, I know.
I don't, and man, I respect, I've got a lot of friends and clients that are craftsmen that are just amazing. And I respect them. So if we come in, let's say this, if most people are going to come in the contracting or home service business, either A, they were a technician, painter, or whatever, they were hands-on, or B, they were in sales or marketing. That's the lion's share. Some people came in because it was a family business.
Yep.
But every one of us come in and we get to this point where we're promoted beyond our ability.
Yep.
And we hit that ceiling. And we don't have to stop growing, but we don't need to get exacerbated, frustrated, disillusioned, and give up, or just burn out and die and have our, you know how many marriages are ruined because of small business?
Tons.
When I told you earlier the story about how I'm sitting there late at night and my wife and kids are in bed,
with the microwave,
and then the song came on. Okay. Mm-hmm. My oldest daughter was a few years old at that time. Let's fast forward 20 years from that moment when I made that decision to build a team. 20 years later, I'm walking her down the aisle to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And from the back of the chapel to the front of the chapel, our entire life together flashed before my eyes. What does it take? 30 seconds to walk from the front to the back? Yeah. I don't even remember. Okay. And I've got, again, my face is beet red. I'm so happy for her, but I'm crying. These memories are flashing through, teaching her how to walk, how to swim, how to ride a bike, how to drive a car.
Mm-hmm.
All of these memories and all these great memories flashed before my eyes in just a few seconds. And it didn't hit me until later when I was speaking to some business owners that had I not made that decision 20 years earlier, I would have missed out on all those moments. I would have been an
And
absent father.
that's gut wrenching to think about.
I would have been buying the car and buying the bike, but I wouldn't have been spending time with the most important things in my life, my family.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's important that we grow as leaders and gain these leadership, people management, business skills so that we can really run a real business instead of act like an amateur out there that doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Dude, I love it. I love it. I agree with everything you're saying, dude. I love it. So what's the final S?
Okay. So the final S is systems.
Okay.
But hey, back on the O,
Okay.
here's a key. I want everybody to know. People are different, but they are predictably different. And you can find some keys on how to put that puzzle together when you start learning about personality and behavioral styles.
Yeah.
And if you're coming to if you're one of those that are coming to the PCA, they actually invited me to speak on this message. And
What day are you
learning about personality styles is like a superpower. It's a 360-degree superpower tool in life that not only helped me in my business, but it helped me in my marriage and in my parenting and in every relationship ever. So if you're coming, I want to invite you to join me on
What
that
day are you
session.
speaking at PCA?
Wednesday, the 28th, 10:30 a.m.
Perfect. Awesome.
So the final S, so it's self, others, and the last one is systems. And when we're a small business owner, all of our systems are right between our ears. We develop it, we problem solve it, we plan it, all right there. And we get pretty dang good at it. But now when we've got to bring that to our team, it's not written, okay? It's not rehearsed, it's not repeated, it's not reviewed. So all of this training, I believe in hands-on training, don't get me wrong, but it begins to dilute.
You have to have a documented process.
And it needs to be documented.
Yeah.
And so it's a good system my systems were great for me and they made me a personal productivity powerhouse, but they were fragile because only I could troubleshoot them and the other people couldn't run them. They were too complex. And so boiling it down, and for those of you who might happen to be watching on video, I don't know if you can see, I have in my studio here, I have a easy bake oven. I actually have two easy bake ovens because the easy bake oven, what's that symbolic of? It's symbolic of, wow, you mean I can take a 6-year-old and make cupcakes and brownies and cakes with an oven? There's like 6 steps. Plug the oven in, do this and that. And if we can apply that to the processes in our business, we can make them repeatable. We can make them predictable. We can make them scalable. We can make them teachable, transferable. And so I call those able systems. All those ables fit together.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I can give that system to someone and they can repeat it. And it also means, okay, let's just take this for marketing for a second. So if I'm given, if I'm spending $1,000 a month on this lead source and it's getting me, I don't know, say, let's just say 100 leads. If I spend 2,000, will I get 200 leads? Will I get?
You would think, but you might not.
You might not, or maybe I'll get 300.
Mm-hmm.
What am I getting?
Mm-hmm.
But knowing if I increase the input, will I proportionally? What's the proportion of output I will get? Mm-hmm. So that's why you want your systems to be predictable and scalable at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it really in home service businesses. Hey, this isn't brain surgery. We're not designing a jumbo jet. Most everything we do can be boiled down to some simple checklists. Hey guys, these are the most important things that are easy to forget. Okay. The most important. Don't forget
something
A,
simple
B,
like
C.
What to do on day one when you get to a customer's home. That's an important checklist.
If a very man, I'll tell you what, it's a kind of a long book and it starts out dry, but it ends really good. It's the Checklist Manifesto. Great book.
I've heard of that, but I haven't read it yet.
It's a great book. and it'll get you thinking about checklists. I don't need to go write a book for every process. Look, your people that work in your business, they don't want to read a book.
Mm-hmm.
Give them the down and dirty, and they can learn the rest later. It's the Pareto rule. Give them the 20% that's going to give the 80% impact. Again,
Yes.
say you mess something up. Look, you're not operating on someone's brain here in what we do. Mess ups can be fixed in most everything we do. Let's make it simple and help people succeed. And back to Atomic Habits, let's make it obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make it easy. Let's
Mm-hmm.
make it rewarding.
Yep. I love it. I love it. I don't know if you know this. I know as in the Air Force, but um, the last few months I was in, I had decided to exit. So I was leaving. And at that point, they weren't going to deploy me anymore. I just did 5 deployments in 5 years. And so I said, I'm not doing that anymore. They weren't going to deploy me because then you could get stuck overseas and, they're not going to do that. So because of that, they put me in this kind of ancillary assignment. And what's interesting is I was in charge of the SOPs for aircraft maintenance for the AC-130U gunships, one of the most expensive planes in the Air Force fleet. And so it was pretty cool because I got to do a bunch of extra training that I now use every day. And it was about how the government actually makes those processes, how they test them, how they get peer reviews, how they incrementally change them at a like very, very, very like $1 trillion level. And like I pull from that on a daily basis. It's really, really cool.
Nice.
But basically, like the government, and this right or wrong, they put a bunch of stuff into a system, then they deploy it, then they watch the feedback, they take and bring it back to the experts and say, okay, what went right or wrong, looking at data, and then they make changes where they think they need to, and they redeploy it and they recycle. It's nothing more than an iterative change model, but on SOPs. And that's what's done in our military now for everything. And you know what I mean? You deploy the best you got, watch it for failures. When it fails, bring it back to a cycle, fix it, patch it, redeploy it, and go over again. So I think like from business leaders, man, even if you don't have the SOPs, I know you got some amazing SOPs. Even if you don't do that, even if you just had something really simple, like here are the things that I need to cover during a sales process. Here's the things that I need to cover day one when I get out to a job site. Here's the things that I need to do as I'm wrapping up my job. Just simple checklist, and then use them. You'll realize your faults, you'll realize some failures, and you will then need to update them. Take a few minutes to update them, then do them again, and just keep doing that. Before you realize it, you've got a system for every part of your business, and all you've been doing is small incremental changes.
That's a wonderful story about the aircraft, by the way. Another benefit is, let's just say, hey, man, my process isn't complete.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
how about start with the basics?
Yep.
And now you get a team of people that are used to following process.
Yeah.
So once you add a process in there,
once you add an extra step, they're already used to doing it.
They're already following the process.
So,
and if you don't give them a process, they're going to have to figure it out on their own.
yeah.
And a great employee is going to either they're going to try to figure it out the best they can. Some employees are going to try to figure it out to make their job the easiest.
Mm-hmm.
But the employees don't know what you know as the business owner. That's why we've got to just, hey, these are the important things. Keep it simple. Man, we don't have to make it complex. Keep it simple for people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Air Force had just thousands and thousands of them, but their mantra was you need to follow it every time, even if you've done it 1,000 times, because 2 big things happen. Number one, we become numb to the steps that we've already taken. You could have them in front of you. You become complacent and numb to those steps you've already done, and you will forget something. Like, I do Google Ads, right? And Google Ads is one of the most complicated marketing systems on the planet. There's about 1,000 controls inside of Google Ads. It's ridiculous. Every day I miss something, but we have a process where a second person goes back and checks it because we know that the human error is going to miss something. There's so many freaking buttons and checkboxes inside of Google Ads. It is almost inevitable, even with the checklist, you're going to miss one thing somewhere. So we have a process for that, So like that was the government's thing, is like, no matter what, you always need to follow the checklist, because I don't care if you've done that 7-step checklist 10,000 times, you're going to forget something at some point. Then there's another process for someone to come behind you and check it. And it's called the inspections that they do. So there's always a QC point. So even if you miss something, it gets checked again. And I think that's a really, really simple system. You can keep really simple checklist. Just always make sure you have them on hand. Have some system in your model where someone else can check them, especially painters. Like I used to paint. You know how many times you can look at a single room and not catch a touch up? A homeowner goes in there for 5 seconds and they find 10 of them that you were staring at for an hour and didn't see. Different set of eyes is going to see different things. And so
Yeah.
I think that even with the most amazing systems, you go back to your people. You need to have your systems need to include other people, I think, too.
And, another reason to keep these simple, Micah, is, look, as a business owner, there's so many demands on our time.
Oh, for sure.
There's always more than we can do. And if we can just put some simple processes in place to empower our people. Hey, here's something for you. Simple systems empower ordinary people to get extraordinary results.
I like that.
Think about this. This is just a classical example. Whether you like them or hate them, the top rated French fries every year are
McDonald's.
pretty much going to be McDonald's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have the highest paid French fry cooks?
No.
Do they use the most expensive potatoes?
No.
No. It's like, but now you ask, like, do they have a system that knows the moisture content of the potatoes when they buy them? Yes.
Absolutely.
Do they let the guys who are running the store decide what temperature to cook the fries at?
Absolutely not.
Do they let them decide how long to keep them in the oil?
No,
they have alarms and temperature controls and settings, and it says now
those fryers don't even have controls on them.
Start over.
Those fryers don't even have controls on them other than on and off. Because when it's on, it is at the preset temperature that corporate has already decided is the temperature for fries. And it has a giant alarm. As soon as you drop it, you push a button, there's an alarm. I don't know how long the timer is, but it's going to tell you exactly when to take those things out.
So why can't we make things like that for our people? It's like the easy bake oven.
Yeah.
Let's make it easy for people to get great results. If you can make it easy for people to get great results, man, your business it's going to help your business thrive.
It's going to empower the people too, because now they feel more confident about the things that they just did.
That's right. Win-win.
Yeah, I know. There's I forget who said this quote, but one of the things I really love that I pull from that I think is important for making SOPs and systems and whatever you want to put on it is some author, but I forget who it was. They said, if I had had more time with this, I'd have made it shorter. And it was talking about a book that they wrote, right? And the idea was like the things that came after it were basically like if I had had more time, I could have written it in a more simple way with less words and gotten the same point across. So I think the key point there is it takes time to create these systems.
Yes.
To make the easy bake oven doesn't take the operator time, but it takes the person behind it a lot of time.
That's
How can
right.
you take something that maybe traditionally had, 50 ingredients in a kitchen and a giant book on how to make bread? There's a lot of steps for that, right? Anyone that's ever made like sourdough bread from scratch or something will realize there's a lot of steps to that. But you take it and distill it down to your 6 easy bake oven steps. That's the work of the person that wrote the systems, not the person following the systems. It's not the McDonald's fry cook that made all those things. It's the McDonald's headquarters that made those things. Yep. They did the work. They worked it out to make it simple for everyone else.
So now if you're a business owner and you're spending time cooking the fries, making the widget, delivering your service, who's designing the system?
Yeah.
That's why we got to raise our prices.
Yeah.
We've got to create some bandwidth to hire some people, and we've got to stop making the widget ourselves, hire people to train people to make the widget, and then we can start working on the system that their business runs on.
I love it. Dude, this has been a really cool chat. We've been on here for about an hour. Before we wrap up, you got any final parting words for the listeners in here today?
Man, I tell you what, if you can avoid small business contractor prison,
I love that term, by the way.
And really grow as a leader, build a team of people. It means you got to have a compelling vision. You've got to be a leader that people want to follow, and you've got to love people and make a way for their vision to come true and your vision to come true at the same time, their vision for their life and for their family. and then empower them with simple, repeatable systems. We didn't get into KPIs, but it's simple, but it's not easy.
I like
But
that.
if you can keep it simple and follow the 3-step SOS process, then you'll be well on your way to building a greater future with more time and freedom.
I love it, dude. I'm actually going to write down that SOS myself, and I'm going to have some team chats about it. I've had similar thoughts, but I love that breakdown. I think it's fantastic. And Jason, dude, awesome. I appreciate you being here, sharing all your knowledge as always. And I look forward to seeing you at the PCA next week.
Sounds good. I'll see you. I look forward to seeing you then.
All right, man. See you. Bye, everybody. Hey, if you like this podcast, please follow and share. If you're looking for help growing your contracting business, I invite you to join my free community where we go live, share all sorts of tips and resources and free trainings. Plus, you get help from me, my team, and from peers. The link for that group is down below, and we'll see you next time.